Mami Wata, please! My hands, they're disappearing. I can feel them.
You broke your promise, Chioma. The river is calling you home now.
I'm sorry. I'll give back the mirror. Just make it stop.
Take me instead. Punish me. Just let her live.
Some debts cannot be transferred, fisherman. She looked when she shouldn't have, and now she'll pay the price.
The water turned black the moment I broke my promise. I should have listened. I should have waited. But the mirror was right there in my hand, whispering secrets I desperately wanted to know, and I convinced myself that just one more look wouldn't matter. How wrong I was. My name is Chioma, and I'm about to tell you how a gift from the river spirit destroyed everything I loved, and how I barely escaped with my life. I remember the exact moment my life changed forever. It was a Thursday evening, and I was 24 years old, kneeling by the river bank with my washing basket beside me. The sun had already dipped below the palm trees, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that reflected on the water's surface like liquid fire. I was scrubbing my late mother's wedding wrapper, the one with the golden thread patterns that she wore on her own wedding day 28 years ago. My hands were tired from the day's work at the market where I sold vegetables, and I was rushing because my husband Eze would be home soon from fishing, expecting his dinner ready. That's when it happened. The wrapper slipped from my soapy fingers, and the precious beads my mother wore, glass beads mixed with coral that my father had saved 3 months' wages to buy, tumbled into the water with a soft splash that somehow sounded louder than thunder in my ears. I stared in horror as those beads sank deeper and deeper into the dark water. They were the only valuable thing my mother left me when she passed 2 years ago. Without thinking, I plunged my arm into the river, reaching desperately for them, even though everyone in our village knew the dangers of the deep waters after sunset. The current was stronger than I expected, pulling at my arm like invisible hands trying to drag me under. That's when I felt it. Something cold and smooth wrapped around my wrist beneath the surface. I screamed and tried to pull back, but the grip was firm yet somehow gentle. Then the water began to glow with a strange blue-green light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The surface rippled and parted, and she rose before me like a dream made real. Mami Wata was more beautiful and terrifying than any of the stories my grandmother used to tell. Her skin shimmered like moonlight on water, constantly shifting between deep brown and silver blue. Her hair wasn't just long, it flowed and moved like the river itself, cascading down her shoulders in waves that never stopped moving. Her eyes were the color of the deepest part of the ocean, ancient and knowing, and when she looked at me, I felt like she could see every thought I'd ever had and every choice I would ever make. She smiled, and her voice sounded like water flowing over smooth stones. Chioma, daughter of Adana, wife of Eze, I have been watching you for many moons. My mouth went dry. I managed to whisper, "Please, Great Spirit, I meant no disrespect. I only reached for my mother's beads." Mami Wata's laughter was like rain falling on leaves. "I know, brave one. Many would fear to put even a finger in my waters at this hour, yet you reached in fully without hesitation. You value what your mother left you more than your own safety. This shows a good heart." She opened her palm, and there lay the beads, completely dry and gleaming as if they'd never touched water. "Here is what you seek." I took them with trembling hands, hardly believing what was happening. "Thank you, mighty Mami Wata. Thank you so much." But she wasn't finished. From the folds of her flowing garment, which seemed to be made of water itself, constantly moving and changing, she drew out an object that made me gasp. It was a mirror, but unlike any I'd ever seen. The frame appeared to be woven from silver reeds that grew in the deepest parts of the river, decorated with tiny fish scales that caught the dying light and threw it back in rainbow colors. The mirror's surface was so clear and perfect it seemed to hold its own light.
"This is a gift," Mami Wata said, holding it toward me. "A mirror of truth. When you look into it, you will see things as they really are, not as they appear to be. You will see the true hearts of people, the secrets hidden in shadows, the lies beneath sweet words. It will show you the path when you are lost and reveal wisdom when you are confused. I reached for it slowly, hardly daring to touch something so magical. The moment my fingers closed around the frame, I felt a strange warmth spread through my hand and up my arm. The mirror seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. But listen carefully. Mami Wata's voice became serious, and the playful light left her eyes. Such power comes with responsibility. You must look into this mirror only once each full moon. No more, no less. When the moon shows her complete face in the sky, you may gaze into the mirror and receive its wisdom. One look each full moon cycle. Do you understand? I nodded quickly, clutching the mirror to my chest. Yes, Great Spirit, once each full moon, I promise. Promises made to the river are binding, Chioma. The water never forgets, and neither do I. If you break this rule, if you look more often than permitted, there will be consequences. The price for broken promises is always high. Her eyes held mine for a long moment, making sure I understood the weight of her words. Do you still accept this gift? I should have asked what those consequences were. I should have thought longer about whether I really needed such a powerful object. But all I could think about was how this mirror might help me, might make me wise and respected in the village, might show me truths that others couldn't see. Yes, I said firmly, I accept, and I promise to follow your rule. Mami Wata nodded slowly. Then use it well, daughter of the land. Remember, wisdom is sweetest when it comes slowly, like the river carving through stone over many years. Rush it and you will find only destruction. With those words, she sank back into the water as smoothly as she had risen, leaving barely a ripple behind. The glowing light faded, and suddenly I was alone on the riverbank in the gathering darkness, holding a magical mirror and my mother's beads. I walked home in a daze, my washing forgotten. When I reached our compound, Eze was already there, mending his fishing nets by lamplight. He was 26, with strong arms from years of rowing and eyes that always seemed to be smiling even when his mouth wasn't. He looked up as I approached. "You are late," he said without anger. I was starting to worry. Did something happen at the river? I hesitated, hidden in the fold of my wrapper. Something told me to keep this secret, at least for now. I dropped Mama's beads in the water, but I got them back, that's all. He studied my face for a moment. Eze always could tell when I wasn't sharing everything, but he didn't press. "Come, let's eat. I caught 3 big catfish today. Tomorrow will be a good market day for us." That night, lying on our mat while Eze slept beside me, I took out the mirror and examined it by the light of the moon streaming through our window. I didn't look into its surface. The full moon was still 2 weeks away, and I intended to keep my promise. But I ran my fingers over the frame, feeling the smooth scales and woven reeds, wondering what truths it would reveal when the time came. The first full moon came exactly 14 days after Mami Wata gave me the mirror. I waited until Eze went to check his fish traps that evening. Then I sat alone in our small room, holding the mirror with hands that trembled with anticipation. The full moon rose huge and orange outside my window, and I lifted the mirror to see my reflection. What happened next took my breath away. My reflection rippled like water, then cleared to show not just my face, but something beyond it. I saw my neighbor Ngozi sitting in her compound, smiling and greeting people as she always did. But the mirror showed me deeper. It revealed her heart, heavy with sadness because she couldn't have children after 3 years of marriage. I saw the pain she hid behind her cheerful face, the tears she cried when no one was watching. The image shifted, and I saw Emeka, the cloth trader in the market. The mirror showed him measuring fabric for customers, but I could see his fingers positioned to make the measurements shorter than they should be, cheating people of what they paid for. I watched as he pocketed the extra money with a satisfied smile. Then the mirror showed me something that made my heart warm. I saw Eze at the river, and I could see into his heart too. It glowed with love for me, pure and strong, like a flame that never wavers. Even when we argued about small things, even when I was difficult or moody, his love remained constant. Seeing this truth brought tears to my eyes. The mirror faded back to showing just my reflection, and I carefully wrapped it in cloth and hid it away, but my mind was racing with everything I'd learnt. The next day, I went to Ngozi and sat with her and gently let her know that I understood her pain. We talked for hours and she cried on my shoulder, relieved to finally share her burden. I connected her with my grandmother Adaize, who knew herbs and prayers that might help. I also quietly warned people about Emeka's dishonest measuring, and soon his cheating was exposed. The village elders made him pay back what he stole, and he learned to trade fairly. That evening, I held Eze a little tighter, grateful for his faithful heart.
Word spread that I had become wise, that I somehow knew things others didn't. People started coming to me for advice. I helped settle disputes, gave counsel to troubled marriages, and guided young people in making important choices. All thanks to the mirror's wisdom, received once each full moon, just as I'd promised Mami Wata. For 3 whole months, I kept my word perfectly. 3 full moons came and went, and I looked into the mirror only on those nights, learning truths that helped me help others. I became known as someone blessed with unusual insight. The village chief, Obi, a respected man of 45 years, even came to seek my guidance on a land dispute. My reputation grew, and with it, my pride. That was the beginning of my downfall. It started small, as these things always do. It was the middle of the 4th month, 2 weeks before the next full moon, and I was lying awake at night thinking about a problem. Our neighbor Ikenna was planning to marry a woman from the next village, but something about her felt wrong to me. I couldn't explain it, just a feeling. If only I could look in the mirror and see the truth about her, I could warn Ikenna before he made a terrible mistake. The mirror was hidden in my wooden chest across the room. I could feel it calling to me, as if it knew I was thinking about it. Just once, I whispered to myself in the darkness, just one quick look to help Ikenna. It's for a good reason. Surely Mami Wata would understand that I'm trying to help someone. I slipped out of bed carefully, not wanting to wake Eze. My hands found the chest, opened it silently, and pulled out the wrapped mirror. The moonlight, not full, just a thin crescent, came through the window as I unwrapped it. My heart pounded. I knew this was wrong. I knew I was breaking my promise, but I convinced myself it was worth it, that my reasons were pure. I raised the mirror and looked. The surface showed me Ikenna's intended bride, and I saw the truth. She truly loved him. My suspicions were completely wrong. But then, the mirror kept showing me more, things I hadn't asked to see. I saw that Ikenna's mother secretly disapproved of me, thinking I had too much influence in the village. I saw that my friend Adara had borrowed my best wrapper last month and spilled palm oil on it, then washed it and returned it without telling me. The mirror showed me a dozen small betrayals and hidden thoughts, and instead of feeling wise, I felt angry. How dare they think these things? How dare they hide these small wrongs from me? But worse than the anger was the feeling that came after, a desperate hunger for more. The mirror's visions faded, leaving me staring at my own reflection, and I realized I didn't want to wait 2 more weeks for the next full moon. I wanted to look again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. I managed to resist for 3 days, 3 entire days of thinking about nothing but the mirror, of finding excuses to stay home alone so I could look into it again. On the 4th day, Eze went fishing early in the morning, and I was alone. I held out for maybe an hour before I gave in. This time, I didn't even bother making excuses to myself. I just wanted to know. I wanted to see.
The mirror showed me everything I asked. Who had spoken badly about me? Who owed money they claimed they didn't have? Which marriages were struggling? Who was planning to cheat in the upcoming Harvest Festival games? Secret after secret poured into my mind like water from a broken dam. And I couldn't stop. That day, I looked 4 times. The next day, 6 times. Within a week, I was looking into the mirror every few hours, hungry for more knowledge, more secrets, more truth. Each time I looked, the mirror showed me darker things. Not because the world had become darker, but because I was looking for darkness. I saw every mean thought anyone had ever had about me. I saw every tiny lie, every small betrayal, every moment of jealousy or anger or spite. My view of the world twisted. Eze came home and smiled at me, but the mirror had shown me a moment 2 years ago when he'd briefly thought about how much easier his life would be if he'd married someone less proud. Never mind that he dismissed that thought immediately and loved me faithfully every day since. I couldn't forgive him for even thinking it. When Ngozi thanked me for my earlier help, I remembered the mirror showing me that she'd once felt envious of my beauty. I became cold to her. I started confronting people about things they'd only thought but never acted on. I accused my cousin of stealing when he'd only briefly considered it before deciding against it. I told my grandmother's friend that I knew she gossiped about our family, repeating every harsh word the mirror had shown me. I pushed away person after person, unable to see that the mirror was showing me truths that were meant to stay hidden, thoughts that everyone has, but good people choose not to act on. Eze tried to reach me. "Chioma, what's happening to you?" he asked one evening after I'd snapped at him for the 3rd time that day. "You've changed. You're angry all the time. You see evil everywhere. This isn't who you are." But I didn't listen. I thought I was the only one who could see clearly, that everyone else was blind to the truth. The mirror had become my whole world, and I was drowning in knowledge I was never meant to have.
I woke up on a Monday morning, exactly 2 months after I'd first broken my promise to Mami Wata, and reached for the mirror before I even opened my eyes fully. It had become my routine. Check the mirror first thing, see what truth the new day would bring. But when I raised it to my face, the scream that tore from my throat brought Eze running from outside where he'd been preparing his nets. My reflection stared back at me, but it was wrong. Horribly, terrifyingly wrong. My right hand, the one holding the mirror, had turned partially transparent. I could see through my fingers as if they were made of water. The transparency was spreading slowly up my wrist, my skin shimmering and flowing like river currents beneath the surface. "Chioma!" Eze grabbed my shoulder, staring at my hand in shock. "What's happening to you?" I couldn't answer. I was too busy watching in frozen horror as my other hand began to change too. My fingers rippled, becoming clearer, more liquid with each passing second. It didn't hurt. That was somehow the most terrifying part. I couldn't feel anything wrong, but I could see myself literally turning into water before my eyes. "The river," I gasped, finally finding my voice. "I have to get to the river. I have to find Mami Wata." I ran. I ran faster than I'd ever run in my life, still clutching that cursed mirror, my transforming hands barely able to hold it. Behind me, I heard Eze calling my name, heard him following, but I didn't stop. The morning sun was just rising, casting long shadows across the village as people began to emerge from their homes. They stared as I flew past, seeing my water hands and pointing in fear and amazement. When I reached the riverbank, I collapsed to my knees at the water's edge. "Mami Wata!" I screamed. "Please, I'm sorry. I broke my promise and I'm sorry. Please come. Please help me." The water remained still and dark. The early morning birds sang in the trees as if nothing was wrong, as if I was kneeling here watching myself dissolve into river water. My hands were almost completely transparent now, and the change was creeping up my forearms. "Please, Tears streamed down my face, tears that I noticed were also turning to water, drops that didn't fall but flowed sideways across my cheeks like small streams. I'll give back the mirror. I'll do anything. Just please stop this. Izzy arrived beside me, breathing hard from running. He knelt and tried to take my hand, but his fingers passed partway through mine as if I was already more spirit than human. The look of helpless fear on his face broke something inside me. Finally, the water began to ripple. That same blue-green glow appeared, and when Mami Wata rose from the depths, but this time she didn't smile. Her beautiful face was set in lines of deep sadness, and when she looked at me, I saw disappointment in those ancient eyes. "Chioma," she said quietly, "you called and I have come." "Please," I begged, holding up my disappearing hand. "Please make it stop. I'm sorry I broke my promise. I looked in the mirror too many times. I was greedy and impatient and I ruined everything. But please don't let me turn into water. Please give me another chance."
Mami Wata sighed, a sound like wind across the river's surface. "I warned you, did I not? I told you that promises made to the river are binding. I told you there would be consequences." I know, but I didn't think... You didn't think I meant it. You didn't think the rules applied to you. Her voice wasn't angry, just infinitely sad. This is always the way with humans. You want the gift, you want the power, but you don't want the responsibility that comes with it. The mirror was meant to teach you wisdom through patience. One truth each full moon, time to reflect and understand before learning more. But you couldn't wait. You gorged yourself on knowledge like someone starving, and now you see what happens when you consume more than you were meant to hold. My arms were transparent up to my elbows now. What will happen to me? The river calls you home, Chioma. You broke a sacred promise, and the price is this. You will become part of my waters. You will live in the river, a spirit like me, serving me for all the days that remain in your mortal span. When the years you would have lived on land are finished, you will dissolve completely, becoming just another current in the eternal flow. No, Izzy surged forward, putting himself between me and Mami Wata. Please, Great Spirit, there must be another way. Punish me instead. I'm her husband. Let me take her place. I'll serve you in the river. I'll do whatever you ask. Just let her remain human and live her life on the land. Mami Wata's expression softened slightly as she looked at Izzy. Your love is true, fisherman. I can see your heart clearly, and it honors you that you would make such an offer. But this is not your debt to pay. Chioma made the promise. Chioma broke it. She must face the consequences of her own choices. The water had reached my shoulders. I could feel a pull now, a gentle but insistent tugging toward the river, as if invisible currents were already claiming me as their own. In a few more minutes, I would be too far gone to save. However, Mami Wata continued, and hope flared in my chest. Your sacrifice has moved me, fisherman, and I see that Chioma's remorse is real. She didn't just break a promise out of malice, she broke it out of human weakness, the same weakness that has plagued your kind since the first days. So I will offer a different consequence. She turned her full attention back to me. Chioma, you valued appearance above substance. You looked in the mirror seeking knowledge about others while never truly looking at yourself. You saw everyone's faults while ignoring your own growing pride and judgment. Therefore, this is my ruling. You will return to full human form, but for 1 complete year, you will lose the ability to see your own reflection. I blinked in confusion. even as I felt the water in my body starting to solidify again, my hand slowly becoming flesh. My reflection: no mirror will show you your face. No still water will reflect your image. No polished surface will reveal how you look. For 1 year, you must live without knowing whether you are beautiful or plain, whether you have aged or stayed young, whether people smile at you for how you look or who you are. You must learn to value yourself and others based on what cannot be seen in any mirror, magical or ordinary. The transformation was reversing. My hands were solid again, my arms flesh and bone, the terrible pull toward the river fading. But even as relief washed over me, I understood the full weight of what she was saying. And one more thing, Mami Wata added: you will feel other people's pain and joy as if it were your own. When you speak harshly to someone, you will feel their hurt. When you bring someone happiness, you will feel their joy. This gift of empathy will teach you why some truths are better left unspoken, why wisdom includes knowing what to say and what to keep silent. She reached out and I felt the mirror being pulled from my grasp, though I hadn't even realized I was still holding it. The beautiful object fluttered through the air to Mami Wata's hands. I take back what was given. You are not ready for such knowledge. Perhaps someday you will be, but that day is not today. Thank you, I whispered, and I meant it with every part of my being. Thank you for giving me another chance. Use it well, Chioma. Remember this day. Remember what your greed almost cost you. With those final words, Mami Wata sank back into the water, taking the mirror of truth with her. The surface settled and became just a normal river once more, with no sign that anything magical had ever happened. Eze pulled me into his arms and I clung to him, shaking with the enormity of what had almost happened. As we walked back to the village, I caught sight of my shadow on the ground, but couldn't see my face in the puddles we passed. It felt strange and frightening, but also freeing in a way I couldn't quite explain. That year changed me more than any mirror ever could. Unable to see myself, I stopped worrying about my appearance and started paying attention to how I made others feel. When I felt someone's pain from my sharp words, I learned to be gentle. When I felt joy from a kind action, I learned to be generous. I couldn't see whether I was still beautiful, so I worked on being someone worth knowing instead. My relationships healed slowly. Ngozi forgave me after I apologized for my coldness and truly listened to her struggles. My grandmother taught me patience through her stories and her endless grace. And Eze, my faithful Eze, stood by me through every difficult moment of that year, loving me when I couldn't even see my own face. When the year finally ended and I caught my first glimpse of my reflection in a bowl of water, I barely recognized the woman staring back. I looked older, maybe, with small lines around my eyes that hadn't been there before. But there was something else too, a softness in my expression, a peace that hadn't existed in the proud, vain woman I used to be. I realized that Mami Wata had given me exactly what I needed, not what I wanted. The mirror of truth had shown me everyone's secrets but my own. The year without reflection had finally let me see the truth about myself, that real beauty has nothing to do with what you see in a mirror, and real wisdom comes not from knowing everything about everyone, but from understanding your own heart first. I never saw Mami Wata again, though I often went to the river to thank her in my prayers. I kept my mother's beads safe and told my own story as a warning to anyone who would listen. Some gifts come with rules for good reason. Some knowledge is too heavy to bear. And some promises, once broken, cost more than we could ever imagine. But I survived, I learned, and I became someone better than the woman I was before. not because of magical mirrors or divine intervention, but because I finally understood that the hardest person to see clearly is the one looking back at you from your own reflection. Thank you for listening to my story. If it spoke to your heart, if it reminded you of a promise you need to keep or a truth you needed to hear, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Share this tale with someone who needs to remember that patience is a virtue and that greed, even for knowledge, can destroy the good things we've been given. Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done with Mami Wata's mirror. Would you have kept the promise, or would curiosity have won? I read every comment and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until the next story, remember, not all truths are meant to be known, and the most important reflection is the one you see in the mirror of your own conscience.